And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roger, Atlantis.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange!
125! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. What is it? Put that in the big bag, you know.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Hello everybody and welcome to another NASASpaceflight live stream. This time, not a launch as you can see. We're standing by here for the return of a Shortfall of Gravitas, which was involved in the recent SpaceX landing mishap, I wanna call it. And of course we wanna inspect what is to see today, because this is a bit of a unknown thing. And we have to wait and see what we'll be able to see. My name is Adrian Ball. I'm your host for today's booster slash part spotting session here, as we are getting ready here to observe a Shortfall of Gravitas that is already in the center of your screen. And I'm joined by Ryan Weber. Ryan, what do you think we will see today, and how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, we'll probably just see little bits and pieces of the engine section left, or the bottom of it. I don't expect much. I expect the rest of it to either floating on the ocean or in the bottom of the ocean at this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also behind the scenes, we have Mr. Kevin, Michael Reed, and Gage, I think, helping with the cameras, and also Kevin, of course, operating the stream. And with that, let's just dive right in here, because we already see the drone ship here. Ryan, when is it expected to arrive here?
It sounds like it's expected to arrive at about noon Eastern, so that'd be about half an hour from now. So should be pretty quickly when it gets back in to port and gets parked.
I think we are able to see the core, right? Like, is that just me, or can I see a Falcon core?
I mean, what's left of one.
But you see what I mean, right? There's something on that deck.
Yeah, there's something there. It's the remnants of what used to be the life leader for SpaceX.
Absolutely. We should probably take a moment here, Ryan. Ryan, do you mind recap what happened here for the people who maybe have been living a bit under a rock the last few days? Why are we standing by for a return of a drone ship?
Well, on Starlink 8-6, the latest launch from SpaceX, the launch went normal, you know, words today. Okay. The launch went fine. Nominal. Okay, thanks, Kevin. The launch went normal, and satellites were deployed, second stage, fine. Everything was fine on there. And everything looked fine on reentry until, like, the last couple of seconds. When the booster looked a little bit faster than it should have been, and it kind of slammed into the deck, and one of the landing legs snapped, and then it tipped over and, well, exploded, because there's still a little bit of stuff left in it. And we've all seen the video of how not to land an orbital class rocket booster. So
True.
We know what happens when one of these tips over. It blew up. And there's not much left of it on the deck there. So that's basically what happened. It's their first failure in, oh man, what was it?
February 2021.
Yeah, that's right. February 2021, and it was 268th. So, yeah, they had a good streak. 267. That's right. It would have been 268. 267. You know, all good things must come to an end. I'll just
That's
say
true.
that. It's SpaceX has had both of their streaks broken this year. Their successful launch streak and their successful landing streak. And when you push a vehicle hard, when you launch, things like this happen. You get failures, especially when you have life-leading vehicles and you run into issues. It's a symptom of launching as much as they do. So it's nothing bad. Yeah. It happens.
I saw some people like talking about, oh, this now happened like super close to the last anomaly. Of course, the second stage anomaly we just had. I really think this is just a coincidence because both of these numbers were so high. I do not think these issues are really related to each other in any way. It's just the launch streak and the landing streak were just very, very high on both sides, and they were bound to end at some point, and it just happened to fall very close to each other.
Yeah, and for both of these failures, I'm glad the failures happened in the way they did. Everything re-entered, or any explosions or anything was away from anyone. The failures did not result in anyone getting hurt. In either of those instances, it was one of those. It's just one of those things that it happens. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. It stinks. You want to see that record go and go and go, as long as you can. But let's see how long SpaceX can make this next one. With the rate they're launching, they could get that record back in what, 2.5 years? Not even.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can match that. So it's the start of something new again, and we'll see where it goes.
And then we can, of course, I think it should be the replay, but it's a bit not moving right now. But you can hear Jack, of course, talking about it. We'll get to that. But yeah, it's it happened just recently, and this is one of the things why we are always making sure that we cover these Starlink launches, because, well, sometimes just things happen that you don't expect. Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's get into questions here, because we are getting honestly a ton. And of course, if you have any questions about anything related to this, make sure to tag at NASASpaceflight in chat. And let's make sure we are dedicating our question here to the Falcon 9, because of course we have Flame Trench later, so there's more topics there. And I think we can now see a replay of the fatal landing if you have not seen it. And there you can see B-1062 going down on the Droneship, and honestly, it looks good until the very last moment.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Yeah, she's looking a little fast right there. One thing I will notice though too is I can't remember if the altitude reading there was off nominal. I don't remember off the top of my head, but the speed was definitely a little higher than it should have been.
Yeah, the speed seemed fast. It seemed like a rough landing. I think, like, if it would have been upright, I think we would have called it a rough landing. Mm-hmm. And the way it is now, of course, we are not calling it a rough landing anymore, because it was not running. Also, by the way, shout out to Jack Bayer for jinxing it here. Listen to this.
Bingo! Right in the center. Oh no! Oh no!
No!
And
I love the.
I can tell you, I will push for bingo right in the center as a potential intro candidate for the future.
No. That's really good.
Yeah, it's honestly impressive. Let's get into the question here. General questions we are getting a lot here, Ryan, is about the upcoming very busy schedule from 39A and, like, in general for Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy here, Ryan. What are the implications on the overall schedule we have right now in Falcon 9?
Well, let's see here. SpaceX will always push Starlinks in favor of more important missions. Obviously, crew's always more important than that kind of stuff. Although I do expect once with a return to flight, SpaceX will want to get some Starlinks under their belt just to get back in the flow of things. They did that. Well, I did that last time. They were supposed to go to Crew 9, and then of course Starliner happened, but we're not going to go into that. But like SpaceX has Polaris Dawn they want to get done, which is still vertical over at 39A. They are basically waiting for the sign off and the to fly again from the FAA. And then after that is of course Crew 9. Now the thing with that becomes, if their return to flight does get delayed a while and Polaris Dawn gets delayed a while, which I don't think is going to happen, there then becomes a possible conflict with Crew 9 coming off of 39A, and then Europa Clipper needs to go out of 39A as well, off of Falcon Heavy, and the conversion takes a couple of weeks. So I guess the hope is that this return to flight doesn't take long, and they can get Polaris Dawn and Crew 9 flying out of 39A and then get to the conversion. So I'm kind of curious how it's all going to fit together on that.
Yeah, just for everybody's overall overview, right now the Crew 9 mission is targeting September 24th, and then Europa Clipper is targeting October 10th. That means after Crew 9, there's no window for Polaris Dawn, basically. Like, there's, like, once Crew 9 is off that, like, they at some point need to either commit also Polaris Dawn to Slick 40 and just get it out there and focus Europa Clipper on 39A, correct? Or they slip it behind Europa Clipper. Because at some point they really need to convert 39A to a Falcon Heavy configuration.
I don't know what the gap would be, but if there's any required gap that NASA would want between Polaris Dawn and Crew 9, because, it's still, you don't have to modify the TE. It's already a Dragon.
That's true.
It's already a Crew Dragon for that matter. So that's already done. You'd basically just need to put your rocket on it again with another Crew Dragon.
Which probably takes a little bit longer than Starlink, right? Because Starlinks are, well, it's not true. So there's probably some additional checkouts. And yeah, of course, I just to point out, Crew 9 right now is Slick 40. But of course, the closer we get to Europa Clipper, the problematic it gets for Polaris Dawn.
Well, there you go. I don't know everything.
Oh,
I will definitely say I don't know everything. So, yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
I think we're getting here some marine traffic here. Yeah, it's that's quite nice. So yeah, we can now see it very clearly there. There is a Falcon 9 part on there. That I don't want to get too early with this, but this almost looks like engine section, thrust section kind of area. Maybe I'm a bit too early with it, but I imagine seeing an octaweb.
We might. Yeah.
I'm trying to guess here with the visuals we get. We are about 10 to 15 minutes away from apparently the closest moment here on the 20 minutes. 20 minutes until the closest views. So about 20 minutes until we get like the closest approach here and really can see what we will be able to see here on ASOC. And of course, the other important part is, do you think the drone ship took damage, Ryan?
They've had landing failures on the drone ships before. They already take a decent amount of punishment from the landing birds themselves. I would guess like nothing really, maybe a couple of scratches here and there. It's a pretty solid metal deck, so I wouldn't imagine much.
There we go. Let me thank some people here. Starting with Ryan, I guess that's not you, with a $4.99 superset asking, when launch? Good question. Right now there is a Starlink for tonight. I honestly, I like the crystal ball to say if that will happen. Because, just to point this out, in theory, Falcon 9 is not allowed to fly right now because the FAA has demanded investigation, has not issued a safety, like the public safety comment yet. So right now, Falcon 9 cannot fly. However, I let's just say I have my email on loud right now, on high volume, to make sure if the FAA comes in with an update, we get to hear that. But I mean, it could happen. It could also take a few more days. Who knows? So yeah,
it's. I don't know if we would hear from the FAA today. I mean, there's not. It could happen. Not saying it will. Not saying it couldn't. It's not obviously impossible, but I would assume that I don't think they're gonna get approval today. I think if anything, it happens next week. Would be my guess. Just as because I don't think they would. I don't think the FAA works that quick.
Yeah, I mean, they have to. This is coming down to a mix of like SpaceX basically has to prove to the FAA that this mishap is not affecting public safety. That's the one thing they need to prove. They need to prove, hey, we can return to flight without endangering public safety. So that becomes an interesting discussion when, for example, the engine is involved, because the engine, of course, is used on scent, right? So that would be an interesting. If it's not the engine, well, it becomes a different discussion. And there you can see, by the way, the full statement of the FAA sent to NSF, mentioning that they are aware that a Starlink Group 8-6 anomaly occurred, and the incident involved the failure of the Falcon 9 booster rocket while landing on a Droneship at sea.
All stations, this is Canaveral Glory.
And of course, they once again mentioning no public injuries and public property damage have been reported, and the FAA is requiring an investigation. The second to last one is the important one here. If there's no endangering of public safety, then they can return to flight at a relatively close amount of time. That is what happened on the last anomaly. But we don't know exactly which kind of paperwork, which kind of processes they have to go through until they get that. And until they get that, they are not allowed to fly.
So, while we wait for this drone ship to get closer, I know a lot of people will want to know the answer to this question as to why the FAA is investigating this. I mean, they did state it in there, but they are following the paperwork and the regulations that they themselves wrote and that SpaceX and other launch companies agreed to, as well as stated in SpaceX's launch license. So the newer launch license for SpaceX came out in March of 2021, which is funny because it was a month after their last landing failure, to where landing is considered a part of flight. So say if the booster had landed and stayed and shut down and everything and then tipped over, that would have been considered a recovery failure and not a mishap under the license.
Which we have seen recently. We have seen that with. Yeah.
So that there's your difference right there. This happened during flight operations, which was a landing. Now, when you consider what a mishap is here, you can see number 7, unplanned permanent loss of a launch or reentry vehicle during licensed activity or permitted activity. They were doing a licensed activity, which was flight under their license, and they had an unplanned permanent loss of their launch vehicle. Thus, it requires a mishap investigation.
Which is honestly probably the critical point here, because even the old license said launch or re-entry incident, and this is probably not considered re-entry anymore, but unplanned permanent loss of vehicle is kind of like a slam dunk, right? It's this moment where you're like, okay, where's your vehicle? Well, it's unplanned permanent loss. There you go. That's by definition a mishap.
Yeah, and And for those who, and if you like even go back to the I forget which Starlink it was now. The one where they had the second stage failure on it. There's been so many Starlinks, I don't remember the number. But it's declared as a mishap under that because they had an unplanned loss of the second stage, and the unplanned loss because it was lost in a way they didn't want to lose it. I should say that. And then they had a mission failure, which is under the mishap as well. So it lays out very clear definitions on what's a mishap and when a mishap investigation needs to be conducted. There's also a whole list of how the investigation is conducted. It's not the FAA investigating SpaceX. This goes for like Starship as well. It goes for any kind of mishap, whether it's Blue Origin, Relativity, anything, any company. The company investigates the mishap and anomaly themselves, along with the FAA, alongside them, and then any other entities are also involved. Like NASA is involved in this anomaly investigation because they are a stakeholder in Falcon 9. So,
yep, absolutely, and still getting some radio chatter there, as we are about 10 minutes away from
NCP 5 to NCP.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
6
Yeah,
West,
thanks for calling.
we're getting notification. Have a great day. Is there any problems?
You as well. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
some radio there, and we can now very much see it. There's something on the stack. So it's going to be very interesting to have like a closer view on this and what we can see. Maybe there's some Merlins in there. That would be cool, because then we can see if they're like dented, and if they are like, if we can see if they impacted the ship. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Let me thank Space Nerd here, becoming a Padrat member. Thank you so much for that. Oh, there we see Megan mentioned there as a vehicle that will move now, which is also in the SpaceX fleet. So yeah, here. Gav also mentioned in the back channel, it's in the way of the Droneship parking spot, so that's why they are moving it. Kind of seeing how fast ASOC here is, or how fast it's being tucked here. It's not that slow for such a giant platform.
You have a tarp over it.
Yeah, I don't like that. Makes spying on it hard.
You like looking down
spying.
the open tank and everything.
I mean, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Disclaimer, I do not wish any harm to any rockets, but it's still cool when you see things you usually don't see. Don't hate me for that.
That's why, I will say this, that's why watching Starship development out in the open these last couple of years has been so much fun. Is because you normally don't get to see any of that. And we get to, unfortunately, it's mostly going away now with all the bays and the factory, but you know, it's still fun. You know?
It's cool to see, to observe. And let me thank some more people here, because we are getting some generous support here, and I'm very behind on that. Gary Martin becoming a Padrat member, thank you so much for that. And then Ben Creasy Vision with a $4.99 super chat saying, so where are we at now? 99.2% reliability? Technically, this is not a mission failure. This is the mission was successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, not a mission failure. So it's a landing reliability question. Block 5, I'm thinking about now. That's one of these questions where I would love to have Alex, what's the current reliability of Falcon 9 landings?
Yeah. Alex knows a lot more than me or you do on Falcon 9, that's for sure.
Do I see a landing leg shape there? Do you see what I mean?
I think so.
There's like a triangle.
Something?
Yeah. Again, this will be basically the Florida version of Texas Tank Watching. So get ready. But I think I see a triangle. And triangles are usually like the landing legs here. Of course, they're...
You know, I have to say it.
Go ahead.
What? I was going to say it because Chris B always comes up with funny things. I-tarp. Come on, Chris.
I hope that I hope the tar moves a bit so we can look under it. But I'm not talking about the left triangle thing. I'm talking about right next to the foiling or the protection. There's also like a triangle shape. So we'll need to have more zoom on that.
Not much left.
No, that's not a lot of booster. Still some chatting there. Let me thank Mats here. Max Gosalar with 10 Red Team memberships gifted. Thank you so much for that very generous support. And also Plutonium239 with a $10 super chat. I feel bad for the booster B1062. But can they scrap the rocket or put it in a museum for display? Well, looking at it, there's not much for the museum left.
I mean, why not?
I mean,
throw it in.
You could put that in a museum.
Or reuse bits and pieces on Starhopper. What?
I feel like SpaceX has a very high interest in looking at this hardware quite closely. Because it's they had a failure with this, right? So it makes sense to observe it. If you have a failure with any hardware, you usually want to use as much hardware as you can get to observe that. That's quite standard for any kind of vehicle malfunction.
Like,
let's see.
Play taps, you know.
I mean, that's what they also do in airplanes, right? If airplanes have a malfunction, they look at basically every single piece they can get their hands on, right?
Yeah. If it in any accident investigation, NTSB looks at everything they can. Same thing with the FAA or manufacturer does. Yeah.
So, probably quite standard.
You know, I will say, Adrian, the VAB is looking kind of sad today. The clouds are kind of dark.
Oh God, it looks really sad.
Doesn't it?
This is like the saddest I've seen the VAB ever. It's so dark. You can see probably part of it's kind of this funny thing with Polaris right now, where SpaceX is talking about bad weather, and they're kind of not even mentioning that they're still waiting on the FAA also to like close the investigation, or they have to close that together with the FAA to even get to that point. But hey, it's a combination of both. Let's see here. Let's get some more questions. Can we please play Funeral March for remains of the favorite Falcon? Is that your favorite Falcon, TMCC? I'm sorry. I used to have a favorite booster. I don't have anymore. I'm past off my favorite booster. I think if you can see humans walking around the hardware there, which once again gives you a perspective of the size of the Falcon 9. If you see these humans next to the bit of rest of Falcon 9 that is there.
There's not a lot of Falcon 9 there.
Nope, that's like minimum Falcon 9. I really think the more I see it, that's the thrust section. I think we are looking at the thrust section. And the tarp is kind of where the engines would be. By the way, you're hearing all radio traffic in the area from channel 12 and 16. Courtesy of Broadcastify. Just mentioning that because you can see it on top right.
Your hats on board. Roger, copy. Also, your hats on board.
But yeah, there it comes, and we will get better views on this as well. There are some other cameras here where we'll get a. This is like still far zoom, right? This is still quite a bit of zoom that we use right now to get this view even. Gage is mentioning this is max zoom, so from here on out the views only get better. So stay tuned for more detailed views of what we are about to witness. Yeah, big tarp of the engine sections looks like that. Can they fish out the rest of the booster? Not really. Right?
I mean, so with 1058, you probably could have, because it would have crumpled and come and probably like split into large chunks. This exploded, so and it's aluminum. It went into hundreds of pieces and scattered all over the Atlantic Ocean.
You can see engines.
So,
look at that.
Yeah,
that's engines, right?
Oh yeah, that's the engine section. Oh, okay. So the tarp is over the open tank section. That's the engine section, and there's a landing leg sticking out. That's what we're looking at. At least I think so.
We see Merlins, we see part of the engine section, and we see one landing leg, I think.
Enhance?
Enhance? Yeah, on the left, you can see Merlins. You can see the shape of like engine nozzles.
Yeah.
And on the left, you can see one of the landing legs. Broken pieces.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so what I thought was originally a tank section is actually a landing leg. The tank section's pointing towards the power pack, basically, for the drone ship. All the generators and fun jazz that's on it, and then the engine section is basically facing the camera.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting because we will be able to see the nozzles. That's gonna be cool.
Yeah, I don't think anything is salvageable on that.
Oh no, for sure. There's no way that maybe like some very small I don't know, electronics or stuff they can, but the engines are toast.
Hey, P.S. SpaceX, I'll take a slightly crumpled Merlin. I'll take it.
For sure.
Yeah.
I would put it into my living room. No problem. I mean, to be fair, a Merlin would be quite big in a living room, right? Like, you always underestimate how big these things are.
It's a relatively decent size, yeah. The other one I was saying when they were cutting up Booster 4, it was like, I'll take one of those Raptors. You don't really realize how big a Raptor actually is.
Yeah, isn't the Raptor like 2.5 or so meter high? It's quite high. Like it's somewhere in that.
2.
Yeah.
Wow, I don't remember that. But yeah.
It would fit in my living room. I would make it work, but it would be quite a thing.
Yep.
Also, I live in the second floor, so could SpaceX deliver it all the way to the second floor? That would be nice.
That's right. Brandon, it's like 3 high, one wide or so. Yeah, it's a pretty big engine.
I remember it's like over 2 meters tall. So
uniform, helmet. Uniform. Can you call me landline, please? Uniform, helmet.
Uniform.
Can you call me landline, please?
Not Heisenbear asking in the $2 super chat, thank you for the support. I wonder where the FTX explosives are. Safe? Most likely in the ocean, right?
There's not much left of that.
Yeah, they would be higher. they would be like somewhere probably between the tanks. So they are gone most likely.
Trying to remember exactly where the FTS is on Falcon 9 off the top of my head. This is where I need Alex. I think it's right around the Common. If I remember
so
correctly,
way
like
higher.
Starship used to be.
If you remember how it tipped over, that's most likely the area that just like slammed into the ocean. Brandon Kistner, what do you think about Jared Expo saying that the failure causes is well understood? Ryan, what do you think about that?
Well, it really depends on if it was. Let's say it's not an engine issue. Let's posit it that it's not an engine issue. Which, if I remember correctly, our own Christopher Bergen talked about that in a tweet. I'm trying to remember how long ago at this point. Anyways, Chris Bergen, yes. I didn't mean to do that.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
My brain. Oh, okay. Apparently, I'm fired. All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Adrian, didn't ASOG stop off somewhere? I'm gonna turn down the radio. Didn't ASOG stop off somewhere before it came back down towards Florida?
I wonder if there's a person that we have that I could ask exactly that. Is there like, I don't know, like a Gav available, a very, very good fleet expert I could intro here that answers me that question? You're muted.
That's good because there isn't an expert. Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm very late to this, but hello everybody. What was the question? I didn't hear the question.
So my question about this is like, was there anything unusual about the return of ASOG? Is there, or did it just went straight back?
It went straight back. The unusual behavior was on just read the instructions, which was also hanging out because, by happy coincidence, the Polaris Dawn booster landing zone is pretty much the same spot as the regular Northeast Starlink zone. So those were hanging out, but just read the instructions diverted to Charleston for a couple of hours the other day, which is very unusual. If you ever see a drone ship in a port that isn't Port Canaveral, strange things are happening. But they stopped it for a couple of hours and then went back out again. I can only assume they were trying to swap crew potentially, or they were planning to stay longer, but SpaceX moves fast and plans change within a matter of hours of arriving, and they went back out. But that was just read the instructions. This is a shortfall of gravitas, which, apart from the fact that the booster is mostly at the bottom of the ocean with a few chunks left behind, yeah, a shortfall of gravitas had a relatively normal mission. Ignore the outcome of the booster. But
yeah, absolutely.
Droneship looks all right. You can visually see here. Things look good. Just the cargo is not doing so great.
Yeah, that the rocket is not doing fine. But totally the next question I wanted to ask you here, like, do you expect any refurbishment work needed for such a drone ship after such a landing, or can they take that quite well?
Well, we'll have to have a look. I'm in no doubt there's a whole bunch of photographers in helicopters and drones that are going around that will have a look at the deck. But if the deck's fine, which it probably is, it's held up to the thing that's made of steel, it'll probably be fine. Sweep up the debris, refuel the engines, and away we go. And they probably will want to get back to see Sharpish because there is some more Starlinks lined up, and Polaris Dawn is still floating around. Just the instructions is out there, and I think there's a Starlink mission at some point in the next couple of days, but obviously they only have one drone ship and 2 missions that require it, so I'm sure ASOG will want a rapid turnaround and back to sea, but it depends how long it takes them to clean up this mess and if there is any damage, but there probably isn't any damage. But this is the first time we've had an explosion on Shortfall of Gravitas since it's joined the fleet a couple of years ago. So we'll see if the engineers did their job when they designed it to withstand when things go wrong. But yeah, it'll probably be fine.
Absolutely, and I heard there might be some photographers trying to get pictures of it, but we will see. Totally. One question here about the upcoming manifest here, because I know you love estimation questions. Right now, just read the instruction. Would be in position to support a Starlink tonight, right? Like in theory, it's able to do that.
I haven't looked at the exact numbers. I've been focused on this Droneship, but it did depart Charleston yesterday morning, and it's not that far to get to the downrange zone. I'm confident it could be there if it's not already. The Droneship is just arriving into the jetties now, which is what's the time? 12:10. Not bad for an estimate of midday.
Yeah, I think you're estimated noon-ish somewhere.
Yeah, I'm 10 minutes out. Fire me.
Will do. Yeah, so Polaris Dawn, we are probably also talking about like earliest Sunday-ish, if this turns around fast.
40 hours is probably the good healthy estimate to get Droneship downrange. SpaceX has really picked up the pace these days, and they're using the beefiest tugs they can find in North America to tow their Droneships at top pace. So they can really get downrange like shockingly fast compared to the old days where they'd leave 4 or 5 days in advance for mission. So I'm sure they could get Polaris out the door for a early. Do I want to say an early Sunday morning mission? I don't want to commit to anything. Let's wait and see how quickly they respond, because based on how quickly they clear up this mess is kind of a clue to what their future plans for the Droneship are. If they want this for Sunday morning for Polaris, this mess will be cleaned up within the next couple of hours and it'll be going back to sea. So we'll be able to find out in the next few hours.
And yeah, we're getting some questions here about crew swaps and stuff, because people are wondering, hey, these are Droneships, right? So there's no crew needed. Can you explain, like, if there's crew around, right?
Yeah, there's crew around. So the Droneships, although ASDS, Autonomous Spaceport Droneship, ASOG has the ability to sail autonomously. It doesn't in most scenarios when it's traveling to and from a landing zone. So there is a tugboat on the front that is physically towing this thing around. There's a crew of people on that. It's also followed around by a support ship that will pop crew onto the Droneship to prepare it and secure things, and also they go and hunt for fairings afterwards. There's a crew on there, so that'll be a combination of proper marine workers who are driving the ship, repairing the ship, and there'll also be SpaceX recovery engineers. Generally, the marine crew will probably find are booked on for weeks at a time. They'll live and sleep, but you'll probably find that the SpaceX recovery engineers may just be assigned on for a mission and they want to hop off. So if they went out there to sign up for Polaris Dawn, say a couple of days ago, and that's now been scrubbed, and instead they supported this, they may want to swap out with other SpaceXs that are available. So I suspect that all the crews went into Charleston to quickly swap out. And the reason to head to Charleston rather than coming all the way back down to Florida is simply because it's much closer to the landing zone, so they can quickly swap and get back out as required. But you can see the SpaceX is actually on the barge right now. We're coming past the closest point of our Cape cameras here. What do we have? There's definitely at least a landing leg there. We can see engine nozzles, but there is not much left of that.
That landing leg also is not really pointing in a healthy direction to see
No. Obviously, there was a fire as well. The Droneship's covered in... they have their own fire suppression system, and it's remotely controlled, so they can steer hoses from on land. It's all controlled, so they can pop the fire out. But wow, I thought it'd be a lot more than that. But there's not much left. And the reason there's probably not much left is the booster tips over, and then half of the top half it will tip over the side, and gravity will do its thing. It'll snap off and fall into the water and sink. But that is pretty impressive. It's not the first time we've had a booster tip over and it's come to port in remains, but normally there's a decent chunk left, probably the height of a landing leg, but that is really an engine section and not much else going on there. I mean, maybe they can recover an engine from that if they were really desperate, but
I mean, it landed on the engines a bit, so that's gonna be tough as well. That's gonna be interesting though, if we were able to see like dentings on the engines here.
Well, we'll see. That tarp will have to come off eventually, or they'll be very creative about it if they want to lift off of a crane. We're now shifting into this awkward blind spot at Port Canaveral where we departed off the front beach line at Jetty, and we now wait a couple minutes for it to appear in the Port Canaveral. So we sort of have to stall for time. But we'll see what we can talk about. If there's any other questions that people want to ask me.
Oh, absolutely. I have questions
completely derail your stream. I'm sorry to have just completely taken
No,
over.
absolutely. That's why I want you here. Like there's this is a stream about a recovery after all. So why not have the person that knows about recovery so much on here? Oscar Palace is wondering about a bit different ship here. Great work you're doing, guys. I know this is all about B1062, but when will the landing vessel for New Glenn arrive?
Oh my god. Okay. So it's been a busy day. I haven't actually tweeted this. It has officially arrived in North America. It docked in Norfolk this morning. If you saw some tweets yesterday, it was hanging out offshore from Norfolk in Virginia with another ship alongside. Not sure what they were doing. It has pulled into Norfolk this morning and it's docked there. Why exactly it's there is up for much debate. I'm rather hoping the rug has not been pulled from underneath me again, if that expression translates. Essentially, where you expect them to come to Port Canaveral and it isn't happening. The ship, the landing barge itself, is come from France. You may be able to spot there's actually a helicopter. So just change subject. There's a helicopter at the top there. So I'm probably the photographers all flying around taking photos. Anyway,
I cannot imagine who could that be.
It's certainly people, I'm sure. Yeah, that barge. Hopefully, it will come. I mean, it has to come down here at some point because all the Blue Origin equipment to transfer New Glenn is on there, and they will want to do some tests. I'm hoping it's in Norfolk because they are either looking to do some final touches or it's a convenient spot to go through a whole bunch of certifications. Blue's new barge was built in Europe. It was built in Romania, and then they did some finishing works in France. As it's just arriving in North America, it needs to go through a whole bunch of US Coast Guard certifications, so to verify its seaworthiness to operate in North America. So it's potential that it's easier to do that in Norfolk than it is in Port Canaveral. I'm really hoping and praying that Norfolk will not be the main home port of this barge, because that'll be a very sad day. But the barge is registered as its home port at Port Canaveral, so I'm really hopeful it comes here. But sometimes things don't always work out the way we want. But it will appear at some point. Whether it lives here full time is another question.
It's
but
open.
We'll wait and see. It's open. We hope and pray.
Yep. I want to see some New Glenn landing action here. That would be going to be funny. Let me acknowledge here some very generous support from Ali Demirci, a very regular name here. We hear here from all the time, gifting 50 Red Team memberships. Thank you so much, Ali. That's such a generous amount of support. And we cannot thank you enough for all the support you're doing all the time. And by the way, on the left side, you now see a replay of how a normal recovery would look like if the booster wouldn't tip over. That's how it's supposed to look. It's not looking that way.
Brand new booster that was its first mission, so it's still looking nice and fresh.
Yeah, relatively fresh. There's some confusion here that we have to clear up, because Marcus is wondering, wasn't Polaris Dawn supported by just read the instruction initially? So where's the playing field for the booster for the Droneship field right now? Which could support which?
Yep. So this is all extremely confusing. So Polaris Dawn was originally planned to land on a Shortfall of Gravitas. We know this because SpaceX wrote on their website. Obviously, Polaris Dawn was initially scrubbed, and then they substituted in with a Starlink launch, which was happening at conveniently the same time. Now, as I said earlier, the Starlink launch and the Polaris Dawn landing zones are all in broadly the same spot. So, as a Shortfall of Gravitas was all ready to support Polaris Dawn, they essentially did a last-minute hot swap, and the Starlink mission landed on a Shortfall of Gravitas. Which is why it's here now. So just read the instructions, is sitting downrange. Whether or not it supports the next Starlink launch or the Polaris Dawn launch, I assume is going to be entirely dictated by what mission happens when. So if they launched Starlink, let's say tonight, they're not going to, but let's say it's tonight, they won't have a drone ship for a couple of days to support Polaris Dawn. So that will then give us the clue that Polaris is going to be, at least 2 days out, right? So this whole thing is like a logistical puzzle that SpaceX has people that put the right ships in the right place at the right time. So that's kind of how you got to think about this. So at the moment, Just Feed Instructions is down there. For what mission they'll use it for is entirely up for debate. SpaceX probably knows, but they could shift those plans as well. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see what we're going to do about that.
And let me ask you a very difficult follow-up question here.
Okay.
Is it switch of vehicles a potential change of how they land, or do they do that all the time? Could that explain a landing failure because it's higher or lower on the deck? Do you see any relation to that?
I mean, it's a very good question. There's a lot of things we don't know about how all these launches are pre-programmed. Also, the missions have their own individual flight profiles, and I don't know if a Polaris Dawn flight profile is perfectly identical to a Starlink profile. What we broadly do know is that the booster, when it's coming down, it will target sort of a broad area, and then essentially it will communicate with the drone ship at sea level. The drone ship will say, "Hi, I'm at these coordinates," and the booster will go, "Yep, I see you." And you can see it on stream sometimes. The grid fins will move, and the booster will reorientate itself to come into land. There's a whole bunch of factors there. The booster won't reorientate itself if it thinks it's coming in too hot or something's going wrong. The idea there being they don't want it to crash into the drone ship, so the booster will always target slightly away from the drone ship until it's confident in its internal computers that, yep, I'm good. If I target the drone ship, I'm not going to punch a hole through the deck and explode. So there's a lot of things we don't know. It is a very good question. I don't know the answer to it, and I'm certainly not going to make any guesses, but you've got to assume that SpaceX knows what they're doing after 300 plus launches, that they can confidently reprogram whatever needs to be done to get the launch right. But with an FAA involvement in this, hopefully at some point we will get to learn something a bit more about the investigation and get some root causes that might hopefully tell us the true meaning here. But I think some of the SpaceX VPs said on Twitter the other day that it was exclusively a recovery-based issue. So interpret that as how you want to.
Absolutely, it's quite an interesting wording that we have seen from SpaceXers the last 2 days, because they're very focused on making sure to name this a mainly recovery issue, which is interesting from a wording, because then you have to think in your head, right? What's a thing that is not involved in ascent and only in recovery? Which systems we are talking about there?
Yeah,
I mean, exactly. Of course, landing legs, right? Landing legs is the obvious candidate.
Yeah, whatever systems they use to determine their altitude or their location could be part of it.
Grid fins.
The grid fins could be part of it. There are many systems related to recovery only that it could be. They haven't been any more specific than that. So, yeah.
I always forget how absolutely massive these drone ships are. It's seeing these there coming into the port. They're just bonkers size. They seem so small when you see them on the stream. Gav, out of your head, do you know how big these are?
Why don't I consult the website What I Run, which has all these numbers on it? So a shortfall.
Sorry for throwing you under the bus.
A shortfall of gravitas is about 300 feet long by about 130 feet wide, which is 90 meters by 40 meters.
That's I hate to say this term, but that's football field size.
Oh, I don't know.
I think it is. I'm consulting Chris Bergen here in the back channel. I think it's about football field size.
We can trust Mr. B. Well, absolutely. It's come back into range. I mean, you can see there's a tiny small blue boat on the left there. That's Chalmette. That's by no means a small boat. I've stood pretty much close to that, and that's a sizable ship, and everything's much bigger. I mean, we're going to get a New Glenn in here at some point in its own barge. If we think this is big, we're in for a treat. We should definitely be streaming that first arrival, because that'll be out. That'll be out anything that we're seeing here with some Falcon 9 remains. I'll tell you what I did see. It's gone off camera now, but there was a police sheriff boat actually giving the drone ship a bit of an escort here. It's gone off camera to the right behind the restaurant views there. But it's interesting that sometimes SpaceX will get a sheriff boat escort essentially to chase away. It's just coming into frame now on the bottom right. See it flashing its blue lights. Sometimes you'll get a sheriff boat escort for SpaceX. Primarily, they do it when a Dragon capsule is coming in because they want to keep the boating public away from the hypergolics that Dragon has carrying around. But when a Falcon 9 has a rod like this, and technically, I suppose it's not in a fully safe configuration. However, there's not much left to explode at this point, is there? They want to keep the public away. I mean, if I just track the camera here, we can really see it's going blazing guns. I'm sure there's a fishing boat out of frame on the left here that they want to keep out of the way. But it's always cool to see a sheriff boat out there chasing people away, keeping everyone safe from any potential risks and hazards. I mean, that's a reasonable small boat there. You can see there's a human for scale on there, and that's a tiny little thing compared to the the arrangement coming up behind in the little parade of boats we have here.
Update from Chris Bergen here in the back channel saying football fields vary though, average about 100 yards long. With that is vary based on minimum FIFA rules. So there you go. Let me thank some more people here because honestly, we are getting some very bonkers support here. Starting with Ryan again, with a $4.99 super chat saying, as ASOC looks pretty healthy, and I think we agree with that assessment so far. Nothing looking too out of the order here.
Yeah, don't even see any paint scratches, but we're kind of expecting that. I'm sure we'll see some aerial photographs. The deck was already very rusty and warm because SpaceX doesn't get enough time these days to like repaint the deck, and it's purely like a superficial thing. So I'm sure when we see photos, like, oh my gosh, the deck is all rusty and horrible. Look what the Droneship did. The booster, did. The booster didn't cause that. It was already rusty from hard work, shall we say.
Yeah, and also the fact that it's constantly exposed to salt water, like always, ever.
Yep.
So kind of not helping your case.
Yeah, the Droneship's always rusty. I mean, just read the instructions. Had a couple rounds of dry docking earlier this year where they tried to repaint all the rust off. I mean, just the instructions wasn't very rusty at one point. In the right lighting, a Shortfall of Gravitas, which is what we're seeing on screen, is also pretty rusty. It's certainly not looking as pristine as the first day it was in use, but SpaceX does the maintenance as they can. It's all kept in check, and I'm sure at some point ASOG will get a dry dock too, which will be its first since it was brought into service. When they have a dry dock, literally they'll put it in a dock, drain all the water out of it, and then it's fully out of the water to let them repaint all the areas they normally can't.
And the surface is all metal, right? Like the surface of where the rockets land on?
Yes, there is this ongoing conspiracy which has been wrapping on for a long, long time that the Droneship decks are made out of wood. They are not made out of wood. They're very thick steel.
That'd be some wood if they were able to survive a Falcon 9 booster coming back.
That would be an interesting strategy to use like a flammable material to land a rocket on. Like that's bold move.
I don't know the answer, but there was an original Droneship which also had the name, just read the instructions, but it was a different barge to the one we know and love today. That was like the original proof of concept Droneship, which only did a handful of failed landings. It's possible that was wood because it was a very old and generic barge, but all 3 active Droneships now have steel plate surfaces that are very thick and are up for a fight.
There we go. I also am informed that the NASA spaceflight team indeed is out in full force here because we have another signal here with the help of D-Wise, who is out here already at noon here, getting us some additional views. So thanks for that, D. And again, we are trying to bring you everything here that you need to properly assess the damage of a Shortfall of Gravitas or the not so damage. I think for so we're leaning into not so damage. Let me thank some more people here. I have to. Josh Jones gifting 1 Red Team membership. Thank you so much. Science Bob gifting 5 Red Team memberships. That's also so generous. Thank you. And then we have GunFox61, a very regular here in the chat, gifting 10 Red Team memberships. And then we have Ali again with 50 Red Team memberships. Ali, you know we are at this point out of words.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. It always sounds... Yeah, thank you. I'll thank you so much. This is the reason why we can have 3-4 people covering a Falcon 9 coming back here at the port, and we can cover this. You're all helping this so much.
Oh man, just to interject, have a look at that landing leg that's snapped in half. If you ever want to see what the inside of a landing leg looks like, there's all sorts of that yellow glowy things. That is it's like a shark bite taken out of that thing. That is oof.
Yeah, you can see that landing leg has seen some damage.
Yeah, wow. I'm surprised they didn't cover up the engine nozzles. I suppose we've all seen those before, and they've only covered up the actual brake, but where the internals of Falcon 9 may be on show. But yeah, still some damage for us to see.
You can see the center engines heavily angled, right?
Yeah, I mean, if I go to the left here, there's people for scale walking around. Get an idea of how big these things are.
Just a brush off, little paint job. It'll fly again, right?
Yeah, absolutely, no problem.
It's ready.
Yeah. Okay. Just
20 days refurbishment time max.
Let's go.
No, it's you can see the engine section is a bit messed up. I think we can see the center engine looks like at a very interesting angle. In general, like the bottom section of the engine section looks a bit interesting.
Yeah, it looks like it's all been crushed as it tipped over, I imagine. But there's probably also a landing leg squashed under there as well. I think on the very right-hand side, if I zoom as much as I can, you might be able to see like a landing leg strut squashed out. I don't know if I'm looking at that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that might be. But
the one that snapped?
Well, we don't know. Don't know yet.
I know.
When they lift off of a crane, stay tuned to Space Coast Live after the stream ends. Eventually this will be lifted off by a crane and we'll hopefully get a slightly better view. We can make some guesses.
Absolutely, but yeah, interesting view so far. You can see that one landing leg almost looks like it just took a bit of a beating, but that's obviously not the one. I think that mainly collapsed. I think that looked a bit different, and that also was I think they also moved the booster a bit, right? Because it's not at the point where it fell into the water, because that would have been on the left side here, if I'm not right. Or would it be on the right?
I'm not sure. I think it's where it fell. But obviously, it may have rolled around in sea conditions and stuff like that. I mean, there's all red barrier tape around the boosters. They're clearly keeping the workers away from it, so it may not be like in a fully secure and stable position. But that also may be a dangerous assumption. So let's not assume. Wow, that is a lot of cranes. That's like a modern art piece, isn't it? So we've got the two black cranes there are Port Canaveral's mobile harbour cranes. One is slightly taller than the other. SpaceX uses both of them. In the background there, the one that's sort of lower down, that's Blue Origin's New Glenn processing crane. That one is much taller than all of them combined. That crane is huge. If it was in the air, it would tower of all of them. That one is a custom built, from what I understand, so that's not an off-the-shelf crane. Blue Origin paid, I think it was Liba, money to design a custom spec crane just for them that's on tracks. And then even more cranes, obviously two left ones. Bob as well. But yeah. It's like a fancy art piece.
Megan has moved, right? Megan is now out of the...
Yeah, it looks like it moved. I did not know that was entirely custom, that Blue Origin crane.
From what I understand, it is. It's a custom one built for Blue Origin. It's got the quality of a mobile harbour crane. So the base fit is like a mobile port crane, which is similar to those other two black cranes. But the rest of it doesn't quite match anything you can buy off the shelf. But I understand that from what Port Canaveral have said, it is a custom built crane. But anyway,
because a lot of it looks like a crawler crane, but it's not.
Yeah, it's a weird hybrid between like a mobile port harbour crane and a crawler crane. It's a strange one.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, by the way, we're getting some questions about the whole wave theory we had. about like when the wave might have lifted the deck just as the booster come in. Gav, you looked at the waves, right? And it didn't look like particularly rough seas.
Yeah, I think it was you that asked me to have a quick look at the waves. So we don't have exact data for where the drone ship was, but there's buoys out there that collect publicly available data. I think there was one, maybe you want to say 40 miles away. And the sea state was generally very calm on the night of the landing. But it's a valid theory. It's not the first time I think a rogue wave, rough sea, has been blamed for like a hard landing of a Falcon 9, where the legs have used up all their crush core. I mean, the Falcon 9 is designed to handle a bit of a rough landing. The landing legs have what's called a crush core, so they can absorb a lot of the shock. If an abrupt landing, say a wave basically jerks the drone ship deck a few feet higher than is planned, it can absorb that balance. But it's a valid theory. I think the weather was fine. I mean, we can speculate for days and days and days on this. I would love to do nothing more, but SpaceX will hopefully tell us what caused this. Now there's an FAA-led sort of investigation going on. If it was just a SpaceX in-house private investigation, we may not have learned, but hopeful. We'll find out. I mean, there's aerial photos coming in. I'm sure we'll get some aerial photos we can put up soon enough, but I've just seen some aerial photos online, and wow, it's like a bomb's gone off.
But
it's a real explosion.
It was indeed a bullseye landing. I'm just saying.
10 out of 10 for landing. Oh yeah, well, if I zoom in on the camera, wow. Okay, can we go full screen on fleet cam? Look at
God.
Debris.
Look at that.
It literally looks like a bomb has gone off. Wow.
There's a landing. There's the other part of the landing leg. There's
the debris.
Is that a part of a... No, that's a full COPV. It looked like
there's a full COPV just laying there.
Kind of sitting there.
Holy crap.
That's... Yeah,
oh, look at that. There's the other bit of that landing leg. Wow.
Yeah, there's another COPV. There's 1 and 2.
Yeah, that'll be why the Sherpa was chasing the public away. They don't want anyone near these things.
The front fell off.
Kinda.
Holy moly. Jeez.
Oh, God.
Wow. That's why there's not much left of Falcon. That's probably the worst we've seen in a long, long time. Obviously, Falcon 9's exploded many times, but it's been a long time since there's been that much debris. Normally, there's a single sizable chunk left of Falcon 9, and the rest of it's all gone. But wow.
It's been a while since one has tipped over and exploded. So
yeah.
That's
Wow.
Quite some damage. Yeah. But to be fair, the deck's fine.
The deck does look fine. Obviously, I said it was always a bit rusty and stained. I'm sure there's some new marks on there, but
battle scars.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, exactly. Well, battle scars make it look way cool. I mean, there's some scratch marks over here on the front wall. Don't know if those were there before, but
there's another COPV.
Yeah, there's level. No wonder there's this like red barrier tape here, and the crew are keeping well away because
yeah, okay, I think I need some hours.
Yeah, this might take some time.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm like, this might take some hours to clean up. Like, this is a bit of things to remove.
Get a broom. Be done with it, right?
I mean, this is all thanks to our camera that's in a raised position at Rusty's restaurant that gives us these views peeking over. If you're viewing this on the ground in Port Canaveral, you're not going to be able to see this high, but
it's like on the roof, right?
Yeah, I mean, none of this debris is easy to clean up either, is it? It's not like you can just go in there and pick it up. It's all sharp objects,
more landing
dangerous
leg
materials. There. Yeah,
that's the landing leg. That's another landing leg piston there as well.
What do you mean? Just put some gloves on, get a broom, and get to work, right? Right?
Yeah, that's just super glue, and this booster will be done in no time.
Yeah. So speed tape, DP100. Bob's your uncle. It's good to go. Yep.
And on the right side, I think the right side is kind of blocked by the rest of the ship, right?
Yeah. The ground support equipment on the back of ASOG is kind of blocking the view. They will hopefully spin this. It looks like we are about to do a.
Yeah, I think we are spinning.
Yeah, we are going to spin because the tugboats are on the set to spin it, and we can see the sheriff boat guarding.
And
have
it's safe to assume Octograbber never left its garage, right? Like,
Oh no,
No.
Octograbber has a blast-proof garage in the back, and it's blast-proof for this exact reason. It will hide in there until all is safe. But it doesn't always work out. It's not the first time Octograbber has
a bit of break.
a touch damage. So we've had it before. Octograbber's come out and it's been caught on fire. It's tipped over. It's been shredded to pieces. It's a hard life being a SpaceX robot, but they try to care for it and they have it in a blast-proof area until they need it. But
I see people suggesting using it as an actual Roomba and cleaning this up.
just stick like a little plow on the front of it and just drive it around.
There you go. Put a plow on it. Yeah.
This is wonderful. But looks like we will get a turn, which will be interesting because with the turn, of course, we get other perspectives of the more right side here of the deck, which we cannot see right now. But quite a bit of debris here.
Adrian.
Yes.
They don't need an Octograbber for this one. They need an Octosweeper.
Hello, Das.
All right, bye.
Hi, Das.
I'm out.
Did you just?
That was it. Wow.
Yep, that was it. That's all we got.
He just joined for that. Wonderful. Yeah, like honestly, I like this classic home cleaning Roomba, and you just sweep it out. Which is not what they will do, by the way. Just because I know this is the internet, sometimes people don't get jokes, but they will remove this safely and not put this into the harbor basin or something. That would be very bad.
No, make sure it goes into the proper disposal, with its hazmat material, or which technically the COPVs are considered hazmat material because they're carbon fiber impregnated with adhesive. So, yeah, those are technically hazmat. Dispose of them correctly.
Honestly, seeing this, I would be surprised if they would be able to leave like in a few hours for, I don't know, a Polaris Dawn in 48.
Hey, I'm back.
Welcome back. Do you have another pun?
Hey, no.
What
Nobody's
have you got?
addressed it. Look, we're really working to level fleet cam. I have to jump in and say I know the camera is not quite level right now. Now people are going to be like, I didn't notice it. But they did some work on the balcony, and we're waiting for them to finish the work before we go back there and level it. It gets on my nerves that it's not level, but I just had to say that.
I didn't see it until you mentioned it, and now I had like this. Yeah, it's like this glass shatter moment where you're like, oh no, it's not leveled.
I see it, and now everybody else has to see it, but we will get it fixed.
I'm glad. They're still working on turning this. Which way will they turn, Gav? Like basically to the left, counterclockwise,
right? Counterclockwise. This is boats, Adrian. They'll turn it port side, I imagine. Where are we looking? No, the front is pointing.
Oh.
They should turn it port side, which is they'll spin it to the left, more towards us. And I think that's because there's out of frame on the right. There's a tug on the starboard side, which should help push it towards us. So that should give us a decent spin. Hopefully, once the spin's nearly complete, we might be able to see the other side of the Falcon 9 octaweb that remains. But they're just taking us. So what's happening now is while we're sitting paused, you can kind of see at the front there that the lead tug is disconnected, and then here's the spin. No, I guessed wrong. They're spinning it not the way I imagined, but you can kind of see now spin away, 3 tugs. And if I zoom in as it does a spin, we should get to see the other side of the Falcon 9 remains that we did not see before. So I will zoom in.
Oh, I think we are about to get you some pictures. Stand by, but I think we are about to give you... Oh, look at this. But we will get you some high resolution here. Very, very shoes.
Whole lot of COPVs and some landing leg remains. It's a real mess.
I really think that in the middle there is like a landing leg piston. It looks like one of these.
Yeah, it does. So obviously more and more is being revealed as they conveniently spin the drone ship for us. There's the base of that landing leg.
Yep. There's the other.
Yeah, so there's meant to be a strut inside that leg, and you can see there is no longer a strut in there because it's sprawled out on the floor.
Yeah, I think the strut is like on the right.
Whoops. I didn't do it.
Look.
Yeah, and then there's that tarp, which you can see they've broke the top down. So that is to hide, presumably, the internals of the Falcon 9 octweb, which they definitely don't want us to see because they've tarped it over, which may have all sorts of ITAR goodies inside. So that's fair enough, I suppose. But
there's another
hopefully
landing leg part.
Oh yeah, there's also that might be the one that failed that got crushed as it went down, isn't it? What a mess! What a mess! Let me see if I can tweak the camera here. But, oof.
Yeah, there's another piston, and there is some high resolution perfectness from Max, who maybe wasn't the helicopter we tracked earlier.
It's just that's not much
some
left.
chunks left.
It's basically just the engine section. That's about all that's left.
Can I call in enhance, Kevin, and get on the engines? Like, can we do that? Is that possible? Are you set up for that? If not, I'm sorry. Oh, there we go. Yeah, they're not the lower ones are not doing great.
A little crumpled.
Little crumpled. The one that's
You might be able to save some of those top engines if you really wanted to, but I wouldn't.
It doesn't look particularly great.
What about it doesn't look great, Adrian? The fact that it doesn't have any tank section anymore, or
also
fact
the
that
whole
the
thing
bells
about
are crumpled, or
usually engine bells are supposed to be kind of round. It's a gimmick of them, kind of.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. It's it's okay, but I feel like it's very safe to assume that not a single piece of this booster will ever see flight again.
Yeah.
Well, it'll see very brief flight as they transfer it from the drone ship deck to a bin.
Yeah, it's like
crane assisted takeoff.
Yep.
There you go.
They just like put a giant bin next to the drone ship and just like put everything like in there already. Yeah, that booster's toast. Now we have to hope that tarp is flying off.
No, they strapped it down. I mean, they went to the effort of doing it. It's good to know they still have tops out there for situations like this.
An interesting question about here what Indy PVs is. I mean, it's close to the engine section, so that could be helium spin up potentially.
Yeah, it could be helium. I think they still have nitrogen in those things too. Mostly helium though, because they use that to extend the legs plus spin up. If those lines came off, it depends on where those lines came off, but unless there's a valve right on the top of those tanks, my guess is as soon as they disconnect, they were liberated from the lines and from the vehicle itself. It just kind of got rid of all of its pressure on its own, bled out, and then became safe to approach once it was out of pressure. That would be my guess.
It could also be that it is out of pressure anyway, because if it's, for example, helium, helium would basically have done its purpose, right? At that point.
Yeah, there might not have been much left anyways, considering it was at the end of its mission.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's probably that the DOS talking to the back channel, but yeah, they probably just stayed there because they might have been out of pressure when it hit. So
I mean, that's the advantage of a landing booster, right? It should have been relatively empty on kind of all fronts.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. It's like you're kind of like, well, what if the booster fails on a thing and hits it? Yeah, it could still explode, as we see this one has, and we've seen other Falcon 9s when they were trying to recover them has exploded, because it's still under pressure. Like the tanks are still under flight pressure, so there's still I don't know what the flight pressure is for Falcon 9 off the top of my head, but
you can see it. If you watch the footage, you can see it pop.
You can see it pop, and you can see the what's left of the RP-1 will basically get vaporized from that, and it'll ignite when it gets tipped over and explodes. So you so there is still an explosion, just not a very big one per se. It wouldn't be as big as, say, well, if there were full tanks or something like that. So
watch here on the right side. You can see the tank pop. Once it hits the deck, tipping over, and poof.
You see, that cloud is basically the LOX coming out of it, because the LOX is on top.
That shot, by the way, with the...
Yeah, they got the lucky shamrock clover there that they have on all the drone ships for good luck superstition. They're also on all the support ships. They may need to paint a bigger one on.
Yeah, it's like seeing that next to the tipped over booster is kind of hilarious.
Touch of irony there.
Didn't work this time.
Yeah, there's the engine section.
Yeah,
There's,
only good once. Good for 299 out of 300 launches.
We have to paint the second one. You can see 2 landing legs-ish kind of there. The third one just seems to be like completely gone.
Yeah, which is weird because we're going to assume it tipped backwards, right? Away from the camera, if we imagine that. So that leg you think would be in the air. Now, when we've seen Falcon 9s that have tipped over and snapped in half before, that landing leg that's in that upwards position would be up in the air, what we've seen recently. So I wonder what happened to that landing leg. I mean, it's possible they, I don't know, somehow removed it at sea to make that top easy to get on. We don't know. It may have sunk. It may.
I mean,
there's certainly chunks of landing leg hanging around.
There was also a fire present, so you don't know where it got also damaged because of like a fire and stuff.
Yeah, exactly that.
That booster went through a journey and was not a good one.
Yeah, tough day at the office.
Absolutely, but hey, it got 23 flights, so I think SpaceX is kind of happy that they at least got these Merlins back, because they might be interesting to observe and get some information on.
There's always room to learn from these things. That's how you progress with what you're doing. Is you take the pain and you learn from it and you improve, which I think is a SpaceX philosophy, really, especially what they're doing with Starship. Break it fast and then learn from it.
Absolutely. Let me thank some more people here because I'm badly behind here. Caitlin Lindsay gifting a Red Team membership. Thank you so much. And then we have PepMeds with $10 super chat saying, is it too early to talk about when the next launch will be? I would think as part of the investigation, SpaceX would want to take a look at the engines, which takes time. It's a great question, because the honest answer is we don't know. In theory, there's a launch scheduled in 12 hours. I'm just saying.
I mean, again, that's assuming the engines were responsible for whatever happened, which, based off of, we don't think they are.
All we have to go on is the phrasing that it was exclusively a recovery issue.
Yeah. Which points to well, I don't see how the engines could be an issue if it was purely recovery. But that's just me.
Yeah, for sure. The problem is, will the FAA agree with a few tweets? I feel like they want a bit more reasoning.
Probably. That's a safe assumption, Adrian. Very safe assumption.
Yeah, I feel like the FAA is not like, oh, they said it on Twitter. So we'll see. We'll see. But I will go on the record here, and I mean, you can quote me here and play this clip in 12 hours if I'm wrong, but I have my doubts that we will see a launch in 12 hours. There, I said it. Like, yeah. If it happens, enjoy playing this clip.
Chris, I think more than the front fell off, but that's just me. I
was just looking at Max's pictures. Like, there's no rocket left. Like
you noticed?
It's much bigger than that.
Yeah, it's like the whole drone ship, as we heard earlier, is like roughly 100 meters long. And a Falcon 9 first stage is what? 9 first stage length. What's the actual meters length? I'm blanking right now. I should know that. First stage is. How am I not knowing this?
I know, I'm blanking too.
I only do boats, so I can't help you.
I have 50 meters in my head, but I'm not sure if that's correct.
The whole rocket's 50.
No, the whole rocket is bigger than 50. The whole rocket is
41.2 meters is the first stage height.
Yeah.
There we go.
The whole is.
By the way, I'm the producer. I'm not the one who does the talking.
Admit
I'm
it, you
having a
Googled.
bad stream, but we'll go with that.
Yeah, so like it would be half of the drone ship length. So if we go back to the max shot, if we can do that, Kevin.
Hey, we know what we're talking about, right? Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If we go back to the max shot, it should have been basically the half of the drone ship. That's the first stage. So you can see how much rocket is left. It should have been from the end to the middle, basically, in length. And let's just say it's not.
No, it's that there's unless it's cloaked or like in another dimension, it's not there.
Yep.
At the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, it'll become a very nice artificial reef for some fishes.
There you go.
Some people are gonna have fun scuba diving.
Actually, we'd see your weight. Now I want to go see how deep it was where it actually crashed.
Probably quite deep. Like it's what 600 kilometers downrange.
You're not getting that back. When these incidents happen before, people always ask, "Oh, would they, dive down there and try and get back the titanium grid fins because they're the really expensive, valuable things, right?" It's like so unrealistic and unfeasible. It's just not worth. I'm sure they could, but like, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So
at what point does the operations become more expensive than your titanium grid fins?
Yeah, exactly that.
You're probably talking a few kilometers deep, at least. Yeah. So.
Right. I wonder, like, there's probably a way to find this out. Give me a second.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna look now.
Okay, there we go. Then you look, and I will talk. To see how deep it is in the ocean there.
Can you talk about our editor Ryan's
absolute amazing art? Yeah.
Oh, he's got it all figured out, huh?
Yeah, I think this might be the tipping.
Coordinates again for the drone ship landing. Now I gotta figure that out.
That's that's the
I'll,
absolute professional Ryan art there. On how it tipped over and how it ended up in a position there. So there you go. You can see the professionalism in that art drawing.
Very, very professional.
But yeah, it kind of tells you how it tipped over and why the engine section is kind of pointing to the middle. And yeah, not seeing any crane movements yet, but that probably takes some time.
Like, pick your crane. We've got loads of them in stock.
I mean, it's not going to be the blue origin crane. I feel like that would be surprising.
That one's actually quite far away in the back. It's like an optical illusion. That one's actually quite far back. It'll probably be the crane on the right hand side because that's actually the forward facing camera there, and the other black one is actually further behind. Look like they've already moved the one on the right closer into position. But it's not a job you rush.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it's not a job I know SpaceX is always in a rush to do things, but cleaning up something delicate like that isn't exactly a job you immediately rush into. There's all sorts of surprises.
Yeah, I mean, there's some danger in all of that as well, so need to be sure. And there we see that's the depth at the areas, and we are getting to roughly 3 to 5 kilometers of how deep the water is at the landing zone. So
few kilometers.
I don't think SpaceX will conduct a 3-kilometer diving operation.
Yeah, so
Anytime.
the easy way to find the landing zone in that area is if you see sort of Charleston on the coastline there in sort of the middle, and you draw a straight line sort of out to the right, going east, and then if you cross-reference that with where you see Virginia Beach at the top, and you draw a straight line going south, where those two lines intermeet, which is roughly where that 2,000 is sort of broadly the general area. So sort of around 2,000, which is pretty deep.
That's pretty deep.
Yeah, that's not an easy recovery operation. So no scuba diving anytime soon. So there you go. It's deep. With that, there's a drone ship now back at the port, and we are now waiting, of course, SpaceX first steps. Gavin, is there any historical precedent? What will they do first? Like, we will see some hooking up, and will they try to lift the general big pieces?
The last time this happened, it was way more intact, and they removed all the intact landing legs that they could, and then they craned the rest of it off. Now, there isn't much left to remove, so that big piece may just come off in one big chunk, and then they'll probably put some bins on board the drone ship, and they'll scoop up all the remains into some big waste bins and truck those off to be sorted out. But there isn't a lot left, is there, really, to deal with? But how they take it off, whether it comes off by a crane or a telehandler, is something to stay tuned and watch. Because I haven't seen them bring in so little rocket in such a long amount of time that I don't really know what we're going to be expecting from them here. So we'll have to wait and see, especially not in modern times.
Do we, by the way, know if were the fairings recovered of that mission?
Yes, they were. If we very start of this stream, they were briefly seen. They may still be in the back. They came off Bob, which is sort of that white ship on the left over here. They arrived last night. There are maybe Kevin may be able to find my tweets. Oh no, I found them. I got them. They're in the back here. If we zoom in.
Oh, there they are.
Yeah, there they are. So those are the fairings from the ill-fated Starlink mission. They came in on Bob last night. So I think they were craned off a few hours ago. So they'll take those away. At least those can be reused again and again, which is a bit of a consolidation prize, I suppose.
That's something back.
Yep. Oh, but the mission itself was a success. All those Starlink satellites are in orbit. It's an important thing to remember.
Yep. Yeah, this is like it's kind of weird. We had now 2 SpaceX Falcon 9 groundings, and technically only the first one was like an actual mission failure because the satellites didn't reach their desired target orbit because of the second stage that failed. But this one technically is a successful primary mission.
Yep.
So it's the fun for people like Alex who track the statistics, because you have the distinction between recovery failure, landing failure, and then mission failure. So enjoy tracking that. It's gonna be fun. I don't see any more people around the booster anymore.
It may be a different team that come in and handle the cleanups. They'll be like the line handling team that will get it all docked, and they'll swap out with other people, or it could just be lunchtime.
Absolutely. I mean, it's 1 p.m., so
yeah.
Why not get something to eat before you remove your orbital class rocket or what is left of it from your deck?
Absolutely. I mean, there's still some workers hanging around. The sort of the small support boats are over here in the corner, which are picking up their various people. So that the forward face one is the pilot boat. Now, when you think pilot, you may think what, a plane, but there's something called a harbour pilot. So they're the local experts on Port Canaveral and the general area. So they'll board large ships on arrival. And they'll advise that they may steer, depends on the situation. They'll advise sort of the circumstances, because they've got the local knowledge. They'll know if there's an issue. Let's say there's some debris underwater that we know about that you don't know about. Obviously, the SpaceX ships are here all the time, right? So generally, they have a pretty good idea of the port and the comings and goings. But if they've been away for a week, things may have changed that they may need to know about. So they always, all the large ships like Bob Doug, they all have an escort, which is what this pilot boat does. They transfer an actual human from this small boat onto one of the larger ships for the sailing journey. But very highly well-paid job that, but comes with a lot of stress and pressure.
It also says pilot on there.
Yep.
Gav, give me a quick overview here now. We are closing in on the stream here, but I want to get an interesting thing here is we have Polaris Dawn in the mix now. We have Starlink in the mix, and we talked about this a bit earlier. But which drone ship is in the contention for which launch and landing, and what do people need to look for if they want to understand which drone ship will, for example, recover Polaris Dawn, give you an indicator when that might launch?
Yeah, so there's only 2 drone ships on the East Coast, a Shortfall of Gravitas and Just Read the Instructions. We're looking at a Shortfall of Gravitas, which is firmly in port in Florida. Just Read the Instructions is downrange. The landing sites for Starlink and Polaris Dawn are in the very same area. And the drone ship, Just Read the Instructions, is in that area. It's up for debate what mission will land on that drone ship. But obviously, if you have landed a Falcon 9 on that drone ship, you can't land the second one. So if we launch Starlink tonight, presumably we're not going to be launching Polaris for the next couple of days until a Shortfall of Gravitas is ready to go back downrange. So I guess if the launch happens tonight, it'll be quite pivotal and indicative of what we're going to be doing with Polaris Dawn for the next couple of days. But it's one to watch. SpaceX will post on the website which drone ship is doing which mission, and sort of plug my own stuff here. Follow me on Twitter. I'll update with what comes and goes, and we'll have to sort of wait and see what happens.
Absolutely. It's going to be an interesting fleet watch over the next few days, I feel, for you. Because
it's always interesting fleet watch, always.
Yep. There's so much moving. And of course, Blue Origin now in the picture as well, so you're getting more boats.
Oh, times are very busy. Every day is very busy. We have all sorts going on.
we like more boats. I heard you like when marine assets are used. And
yeah, I changed my little ticker thing in the top right to say marine asset connoisseur earlier.
Accurate.
Yeah. I need a proper title around this, so I've promoted myself to marine asset connoisseur.
And absolutely make sure to give Gav a follow on the X Twitter, because there's quite a lot to learn about launches and schedules and where to what was moving right now and what is going on from his tweets that are very, very insightful. Let me thank some more people here, starting with Anonymous. I'm making this break intentional because that's the name here. Gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you for that. Stephen Hickman with a $10 super chat. I have not heard other of talk about the deck being in motion when the booster comes in. I teach float plan landing and the runways in constant movement. Yeah, absolutely. There's like Gav, there's quite some movement on the deck while it lands, right?
Yeah, I mean the drone ship is sitting in the waves. They have some capability to sort of counteract and smooth out the motion, but it's a ship in an ocean. It will bob around.
There we go. It will bob around. Devin Waldron, gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you for that. And also, again, if you receive these memberships, make sure to thank the person that gifted you that. It's quite a cool thing. And also make sure to check out all the pictures and the videos and things you get in the behind the scenes area on the channel. Josh Jones with a $10 super chat here, asking what part of Falcon 9's first stage have or use hypergolic fuel. Only the Dragon thrusters use hypergolic fuel, correct, Ryan?
On the Falcon 9 first stage, it should be. Trying to remember if the RCS actually uses that or if it's just nitrogen off the top of my head.
It should be, yeah. And then you have, it's not hypergolic, but you have you have T-Tap in there.
Yeah, you get triethyl aluminum, triethyl boring for lighting off the Merlins.
So there's some in there.
Yeah.
That should be about it. So the hypergolic risk on the Dragon is probably much higher than on a Falcon.
Yeah, because they use that for the Super Dracos and the regular Dracos for maneuvering, and then the Super Dracos for abort systems.
Absolutely. And as you can hear, I'm starting to being outroed. And with that, I want to thank Ryan, I want to thank you here for being with me on all the stream and commentated this return of the booster.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's fun as always to talk about space and any stuff like that. So yeah.
And of course, I want to thank Gav here for being with us here and sharing his excellent Droneship knowledge. Thank you so much for being with us.
Pleasure as always. Sorry I was a touch late, but still made the party all the same.
Yeah, indeed you made it. And I'm Adrian Bile. I'm your host for today. We had Infield D Weiss, we had behind the scenes Gage, we had Kevin producing, and we had Max in the air, actually, I should mention, because we also got some pictures of that. And of course, we want to not stop covering here what will happen this week, or what already happened this week, because we have a brand new episode of This Week in Spaceflight about to premiere. As you can see, the countdown just started. It's 2 minutes away. So we want to make sure that you're up to date on everything spaceflight. And spoiler, it's not only Falcon 9 mishaps we're talking about this week. So make sure to check out that episode and get up to date with everything space and not just SpaceX. My name is Adrian Bile. I thank you so much for watching today. And with that, we throw you over to This Week in Spaceflight. Thanks for watching.
And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SPD off. Bring in SPD off. It's orange!
145!
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Decollage!
Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?